Yumi right now to deny it, or are you just going to look for a kill lane the other side of it? Teams are starting to really ramp up with these combos again. We've seen a bit of Twitch Yumi to kind of counter the Zeri, but then you can kind of have that can work quite well because Twitch is very strong right now, and you can still have a good Yumi carrier for your team to play around.
You certainly can. Yumi locked in. I mean, we've seen a bit of Yumi FPX as a duo. You wouldn't have to pick your AD carry here anyway. So you could just go for your jungler here, or even mid laner if you want to take the Ahri, for example. Since they've already got the Zeri, you don't have to worry about locking in your AD carry until that third pick. Or maybe even second rotation, depending how comfortable you are on that Yumi, how
it depends how many picks you've got to combo with it. Yeah, because you mentioned the Aphelios. Xai's been in there as well. We talked about the Twitch. There are a couple of Yumi kind of like backpacks you can kind of throw the Yumi on top of and just say, okay, all right, this AD carrier will pilot you through a good laning phase. Likely means that we're going to have a lot of support, or rather AD carry bands coming through into the second round rotation if it's not locked up. I think with the Zeri Lulu off of the table, and potentially the fact that Hung could be going towards something maybe like the Zeri Nautilus, which we do see, or the Zeri Rakan, you don't always want to play the best Yumi kind of scaling champions into something that can engage onto you so heavily. The Aphelios kind of helps you have a bit more stand and fight potential if you're into something like the Rakan or the Nautilus, which are of course banned out.
Yeah, so getting rid of some of those hard engaged supports, denying the potential denial, denying the champions that will be really good at diving a Yumi, essentially.
So I thought this was the LPL, not the Egyptian League.
Well, you know, I love a river. What can I say?
Yeah.
Jungle taken off the board in the Wukong, and then a Gwen to follow it up so that Zika can have a pretty comfortable laning phase. Are we going to see another Scion in the top lane? Is that
I mean,
really
when Gwen's banned, you normally feel okay about it, but it's going to be the Sejuani. We don't see this as much in summer. Of course, it was absolutely monstrously strong throughout the entirety of spring, particularly with teams like OMG, kind of showing how you can play double melee solo lanes with Sylas, Akali, really empowering that pick. Currently, there are 0 melee synergies for FPX in that regard, but it's still an engage option which FPX have limited amounts of right now. You have a Yumi, which is not hard engaged. The Ahri is more pick CC than really team fight engage. And of course, the Maokai being gone means that the Sejuani is the last in the bucket for a lot of those engaged junglers. Sion on the other side now with the Gwen ban is going to be a very strong front line again for Zika, who was an engaged threat all on his own last game.
Yeah, it certainly was. Zika having some pretty solid moments in that previous game. I feel like everyone on LNG played pretty well in the previous game. It was just Scout played so well that everyone else kind of got overshadowed. Like, I basically just didn't even look at Zika all game because I was just like eyes glued to Scout. But yeah, his performance was pretty good. He's up against Jax though on this Scion. We'll see what Xioalaohu can do. We know that the Jax is a solid pick for Xioalaohu. We've seen him play it plenty in the past. Certainly proficient on the champion. But the Gragas mid, I'm not sure that's something many people were expecting coming into the series.
Maybe not, but I'm looking at it in the regards to this entire draft now, though. But it can help you in those team fights later on by punting out a Jax or, of course, the Yumi carrier as well, wherever they end up. And also, particularly with the Viego in the jungle, there are some real level 2, level 3 kill threat ganks you can have onto the Ahri. Against Gragas mid lane, if you blow flash early, it gets very hard to play a clean game. Typically, we saw the Gragas into stuff like the Jace, actually, and lower range picks, particularly when they go into that hammer form. You can really threaten them, and once they lose that flash, they're very, very vulnerable. Particularly pre-6, Ahri can get a little bit disrupted by a good Gragas Viego gank.
Yeah, certainly can. I mean, Gragas is one of those champions that I feel like in almost any draft, it's down to execution. I feel like there is no Gragas game that is not entirely execution-based. Like, the Cask is such a ridiculous ability in every way. Like, it can be ridiculously good, it can be ridiculously bad, it can be ridiculously memey, it can be ridiculously montage-worthy, you know? Like, it's the ultimate ability to either set yourself... well, it's the ultimate ability to set yourself apart in any direction. Like, just like it'll send the enemy in any direction.
For those of you that didn't catch a certain Weibo game where the Shy might have played that same champion and then failed a flash body slam ult across the wall and just sits there at the end of the Baron pit, yes, it can very much make you look a little bit on the worst end of things too. Of course, still walked away with a win that game. That's one of the lovely natures of Greg's as well. You have such good baseline utility just by having your regular abilities on very low cooldown, especially with the AP build as well. You hit one skill shot, you're still adding some value to the team. In this game, though, you're going to have to really hope that you can get the most out of this Ahri matchup, particularly with the level 1 trading as well. You don't get control of the wave as easily versus the Ahri, particularly because she's a ranged auto-attacker, particularly early levels that can help you push in the wave.
Yeah, definitely can. It helps you clear later on as well, right? Increases your damage against the type of minion that you demat. But you'd anticipate a reasonably slow early game once again here, as our junglers going to be starting on opposite sides this time. Hacker pathing up towards the top side, Tarzan pathing downwards. I'm kind of sad, Nymaera, that we've stopped seeing the Scion level 1 cheese. I feel like that got really popular for a little bit. I feel like it's just fallen out of fashion.
So, we in fact did see one of those games yesterday, which was when Scion walked into bot side level 1, and then lost the level 1 and gave 2 kills to a Zeri Yuumi. That was a pretty awkward game. That was RNG OMG. That was in, I believe, game 2. If you want good homework on how not to do a level 1, that's probably, at that point, that's a good one to look at. But you're absolutely right. You can have some very strong level 1s with this. It's better when the Scion's on red side, because it's much easier to dive bot lane and take red buff away from the red side, of course. When you're trying to do the level 1 Scion invade onto the enemy blue side, as it would be this game, it's a little bit more awkward, and the payoff isn't as high.
Yeah, definitely. And on top of that, I think just we are seeing more often than not these Scion plays not really panning out the way that you would hope. I feel like teams have just got good at playing against it, right? Everyone expects it now, and like you say, much better on the red side than it is on the blue side. So Zika just going to help with the initial clear, then return to the top side as Gala managed to get a huge wave crashed under the tower here. I mean, this is a cheater recall angle if you wanted it.
And typically it is. I think versus something like the Yuumi, though, you really want to make sure you can punish them in the early levels. Not exactly sure how that changed with the various reworks. Of course, Zeri's had a lot of changes since a lot of our Zeri Yuumi metas. And Yuumi, of course, had their huge changes just before MSI came through as well. First time we're really seeing it in pro play, though, into this summer split. But have to see if Gala and Hung can get themselves a strong recall. They stick around for an extra wave. It's going to be an even wave state now. Going to go back to base and get themselves the first components.
Yeah, they'll be fine to head on back, grab themselves some damage. It's gone for the boots and a dagger, as well as 2 control wards across the bottom lane. So should be absolute dominance in that bottom lane in the early levels. As I'm going to hold that thought. Xioalaohu and Hacker want to make a dive happen. Zika just trying to clear the wave here. Will be able to do so. Flashes underneath the tower. Hacker, can he get out with his life? One more shot. No, flashed away. And it will be Zika going down for first blood.
Ah, Sejuani topside melee synergies. They are so, so strong. And Zika, despite being such a strong engaging front line in game 1, not given such an easy early game to get to that point in this one. Tarzan being warded out by his support Hung. He's going to be able to get in unseen.
Oh, flash forward from Hung to get the slow from the Glitter Lance. Instant cleanse on Tarzan's stun, though. Gala can't really follow up in a significant way. LWX actually able to trade a lot of damage back onto Tarzan there. It looks like LNG won't get what they were looking for, and it cost them a support flash, too.
It does, but you are blowing, of course, 3 summoners across that. Zeri Yuumi for LWX and Chocho. Hacker now making his way down a little bit late to the punch. Was just unseen, but spotted by that ward in that back brush. Gala and Hung, full information.
Yeah, so spotted out. Won't be able to find anything in the bottom side here. As Hung actually denying a CS from Gala there. I'm sure it wasn't on purpose, guys. I'm sure it wasn't on purpose. LWX could be in trouble, though. He has no flash, remember, as Gala cleanses away the Gravitum. He wants to find more, but Chocho blocking the Q damage.
Ooh.
Hacker moving back into the lane. The Glitter Lance almost finishing the kill by itself. And, I mean, Gala and Hung really put the pressure on this bottom lane.
And that's very, very dangerous. You might have taken the Yuumi away from the Zeri, but Lulu is just as fine an enchanter, particularly for the early levels. Zeri Lulu, actually a very strong laning duo. Hacker, slow to that bot side play, going to be slow to these top side Raptors as well. Tarzan has been linking up really well with Hung across the map. Got into that bot side unseen. Is just quicker to these plays in the first 2 games of this series.
Certainly has been. As Gala will go for a recall once again, his second of the lane, and you can see the CS advantage that he's managed to build up. Is getting pretty scary, even though they've not actually found a kill. Gala is finding himself an advantage. Finished his boots, gets a longsword as well. 1v1 in the mid lane. Care and Scout just going toe-to-toe. Both mid laners having sustained in their kits as well, so unless it's an absolute all-in, unless you actually get them to 0, or they run out of mana, you can expect both of these mid laners to stick around.
It's one of the bigger factors for that continued presence in the mid lane. Gives them an extra degree of safety, as you were saying, with that sustain. Get 9 minion kills with the Ahri, proxy passive. Get an assist or a kill, of course, gives you an empowered heal. Scales on AP too, so the stronger you are, the more healing you get. Gets pretty crazy. Top side though, Sion doesn't exactly have any sustain, but does have an ult to disengage the play.
Yeah, ult for ult there in the top side, so neither of them going to go down. Zika, I think happy with that result, honestly. I don't think Zika's really looking for solo kills. He's just looking to not be solo killed. The combo from Scout was beautiful. Ult for ult. Flash, though, forced out from Care. And honestly, managing to force a flash out of an Ahri while her ult is up, that is an impressive feat. That's
Gragas lane's view. Gragas does have threat onto the Ahri, doesn't manage to get the kill. Bot side, not going to go into anything too large. Gala safe into this turret for now. No level 6 coming in from Hacker. Hacker struggling to make the same impact on the bot side of the map as he has done towards the top lane.
FPX trying to pressure Hacker, waiting in the wings, but look at this. The cavalry is arriving. Hacker thought he had the advantage, but it's 4v3 now. Hacker level 6, like you say, but he completely whiffs it. It's a disaster. LWX, the target, is Hacker trying to get out on the top side of the play, but they're all going to be chased down. Hacker won't escape either, and Chocho alone. It's a complete disaster. It's a bloodbath in the bottom lane.
I knew there was more than one way to skin a cat. Didn't realize that applied to a Sejuanian and a Aphelios as well. Absolutely ripped to shreds in the bot side, and this starts from LNG getting that play to force Care back in that mid lane. No teleport, no ult, no flash. Scout immediately goes back towards that bot side with Tarzan in tow. It's the 4v3. It's just much cleaner macro plays. It's much cleaner and faster moves across the map. You can really tell coming into this series that LNG have a great idea of how they want to play out the macro. Tarzan skipping to the side, dodging out on the Sejuani ultimate despite not having the level 6 himself, just outplaying the situation with also having the numbers advantage.
Yeah. Great stuff coming out from LNG. This is exactly what you expect, but Hacker sort of being caught out there, a bit red. And very good answer from LNG. Care could not get involved in the play. He was still over towards that mid lane. So really good read from LNG. And it leads to a huge advantage in that jungle now. CS is even, but the 2 kills on a champion like Viego, you know he's going to use that gold lead. He's using it for Herald as Hacker and Care try and contest.
Ults are back up for LNG. If you don't have the Sejuani ultimate, FPX, this is dangerous to walk up to this.
Well, they're walking up anyway. 80 carries in the bottom side. It's 4v4. Top side versus top side here. And it looks like FPX are actually just going to muscle their way in. They'll grab themselves a Herald, reminiscent of game number 1.
So I think that the 80 carry's not there. LNG feel like they don't have enough damage on the top side of the map, but you can kind of understand why it would have to be really predicated on one reset coming through early. And when you're at that point, it feels like Jax maybe would have just turned the advantage into the favor of FPX. So LNG choosing not to take that fight. Hung going to walk into LWX, who does have ult. A little bit dangerous here with the rifle turrets available, but we'll just plant away. Gets the vision down and spot out the 80 carry under his turret.
Yeah. I feel like when Aphelios still only has boots, the combos aren't that scary in the grand scheme of things. It's once he finishes his Stormraiser, then we're in 100-0 territory from that point on in the game. So Hug feeling confident, just get that poke out. This is one of the things about Lulu in the laning phase. I feel like a lot of viewers at home kind of think of Lulu as that late game enchanter support that will just buff up the AD carry. But laning against Lulu, she's like the original Vel'Koz, you know? Like the amount of poke that Lulu has in that bottom lane is just disgusting.
Seeing Dragon go down, there's a Herald and Pocket Hacker. Currently off of vision, might just pick up Scout, not going to do so. But, you know, for anyone that wants to do some homework that didn't watch some of the earlier seasons of League of Legends, go watch Season 5 mid lane Lulu from Faker. Also watch Scout just completely blitzing the spot lane again.
LWX in all kinds of trouble. Oh, nice bit of footwork, though. Dodges the cask from Scout, and LWX gets out with his life. Very well played.
And what this opens up is a Herald drop into the mid lane, so for the first time, FPX have themselves a really good cross map available. Good gold going down towards Care and Hacker. The gold going up to the Ahri is probably less important in this composition, especially because you're going for the Everfrost build. Care is not going to be able to deal with the front line of LNG. So that gold, it's less about the gold on the carries, it's more about just trying to get down that mid lane turret for control across the map, whereas the gold has gone directly from plates in bot side into the pockets of Gala.
Yeah, so FPX, at least they're getting something, though. It's much better than what we saw in game number 1. They are finding their way into this one. And hacking out, looking for the big Krug. I don't think he got it. I'm pretty sure he just got the little one there. Scout, trying to make the play here. I love the attempt, but LWX just reading it beautifully.
It's that, also the heal movement speed. Clutch coming in from Chocho to give just the extra bit of distance to get out of that ultimate hitbox. So well played from the duo of them. Good clicks, good movement speed. Scout now going to have to really struggle to defend this mid lane out of turret. And despite Scout being first to the play in pretty much every scenario we've had in game 2, gonna be more locked in lane now if he wants to keep that turret alive.
Yeah, going to be a tough one to defend after the Herald play, but Scout just walking past Care to get to the minion wave here. He's like, you know what? If I have to clear the minion wave, then I will do it with my body. Walks on forwards to make sure that tower's not going to go down. Gala now just going to ult the wave, and LWX has to cleanse. Flash forward from Gala. He cleanses the exhaust. Is he actually going to go under the turret? No. Won't pull the trigger on that one, but will secure himself a tower. Good respect from LWX to just walk away.
Just short on a couple of those autos, cleansing the exhaust though. Gala really pushing the advantage, has the one-arm spike of the Triforce, might have to use that to a great extent here.
There's TP on the bottom side as Gala, oh, he nearly gets to his team, but his cleanse is on cooldown. The Wild Growth keeps him alive there, and he's still going for the time being. FPX are here in force as well though, as Zika being that front line. This is the weirdest 5v5 I've ever seen. We're fighting over a tri-brush as Zika moves in behind the team, but Xioalaohu flashes over him, and nobody's even less than half health.
So that got a little bit weird, and we are reminded once again that Zeri can in fact cross over walls with her dash. Somehow gets through the entire team of FPX over the wall and back to his Enchanter. Hung saves the day after that point. LNG lucky to get away with that, especially with the teleports coming through, being invested from FPX.
Yeah, LNG really getting away with murder on that one. So they did get the tower, but look at this glide from Gala. Because anyone could jump over the wall, but look, he gets over a lot of that extra lip that gets him over to safety to the Wild Growth.
And also sees that the charm was down just before that. Charm is pretty much the only thing that could charm you out of that dash at that point. The Graviton had just been used, and all that would do is root you, wouldn't stop your movement, I don't think, at that point. So FPX, they had a really big play in mind there. Just couldn't quite land the knockout blow onto the AD carry.
And now, look at Gala's items. Triforce and a Zeal on top of it. He is getting scary. LWX, on the other hand, only on the Kraken Slayer. So, still a lot to be desired from that Aphelios. Needs to potentially go for, I imagine, a Gale Force second item here.
Well, he's gone for the Kraken Slayer. So he's gone for the Kraken Slayer, so he's not going to have the Storm Razor, the Storm Razor shot. The thing is, Aphelios would love an IE, but he loves so many. He just loves the Gale Force as a mythic as well. It works so well with his kit. It means that a lot of the time you'll just see Aphelios kind of bypassing that, allowing him some more playmaking opportunity rather than just raw DPS.
Yeah, we'll see what he goes for. Like you say, I would imagine it's that Gale Force, but Kraken Slayer obviously aware that both Scout and Zika going to get pretty tanky in this one. He's going to need to do consistent damage in these fights. It's not going to be about burst for him. As Xioalaohu starting to get the best of these traits in the top side, but Zika very happy to hold the wave as much as he can. And just be a nuisance, basically. Just deny the split push, deny the pressure from that Jax. It's very difficult for Jax to just ignore Sion and hit the tower until we get an item or two more under his belt.
Tarzan doing a great job of scouting out Hacker, because there is a real threat of Hacker jumping forwards and throwing it all onto the cleanseless Gala for the next few seconds. Tarzan spots him out and says, look, if you throw the ultimate at me, I can ult backwards. I have Merc Treads anyway. You can't pick me off. Tarzan protecting his bot lane in the mid lane.
Tarzan charging forwards. LWX does not get stunned, but he gets knocked up by the wild growth. Turns it around with ults galore, but Gala walking away. Everfrost is there. Can they save him? No! Taken down. And now the rest of FPX jump on board, but they've got their one kill. They've got Gala down. The raid boss has been defeated. Do they go for more here? Charm over the wall onto Tarzan. This would be Baron if they could pick the jungler, but he'll walk away.
Feels like it should be past 20 minutes, doesn't it? Baron not quite on the table yet, but the second Herald, that could be the thing. They're the same Void thingy hanging. Like, this is basically the Tenant before the Baron. Like, they haven't quite moved in yet. They're sorting out, like, the lease agreement. And this is currently moving out, packing up their stuff, getting that Herald. And looking into that fight beforehand, it did feel like LNG had themselves a great point with Tarzan playing defense, but then they lose their cool a little bit. Go for that big engage. And FPX, you can see the engage potential which they do have, particularly when you don't have the cleanse on Gala. Remember, he used it last, I think, to remove that exhaust in bot lane. I think it was last time it was used. Tarzan goes for the aggressive play, but remember, Gala still doesn't have that cleanse. Has to continually play on the back foot. Can't deal with the Everfrost, the charm. He can't get the damage out despite having the items ahead of the Aphelios at this point. And once that AD carry goes down, FPX can win the fight.
Yeah, great stuff coming out from Care there as well. Finds the charm, finds the Everfrost, and finds the pick onto Gala. He actually dodged the ultimate from Hacker. He kind of got away from everything until Care put that final nail in his coffin. So really, really good pickup. And it does mean that LNG don't find themselves that big of an advantage as we head towards the 20-minute mark. They are barely ahead in gold. They've got the 2 Drakes, so still fundamentally ahead in the game, but not as ahead as they would like. Certainly nothing like what we saw in game number 1. I mean, they were already pushing tier 2s at this point in game number 1. Now Care in trouble. We'll have to Spirit Rush away. Dodges away from the cast from Scout.
Now we see this mid lane turret, which of course was the object of FPX's desire in that last fight, still just alive from LNG. They've thrown, they threw the first Herald into it in one of those cross maps. They have the second Herald in inventory. They'd like to really not use that on the mid lane. Should be able to take this one for free, which does raise the question of where they are going to go put down that second Herald. Opening up a side lane for Xioalaohu to really make a mess of the map would be a big victory for them. And as you can see with that Hacker, Sejuani Jack synergy, Herald towards this bot side. It's not easy to kill the Scion, but maybe you can just let them hit the tower.
Maybe the Herald cannot be cleared like the wave can. Zika has to flash so that he can use his ultimate to reposition. Nicely done there by Zika just to survive the Herald play, but FPX, he'll be more than happy with that. Herald used, tower taken, bit of gold in your pockets. And it does mean for the first time this game, FPX actually slightly ahead in gold.
Or close enough to it. And the big thing is that, you know, it means that they're not super far behind against an LNG, which have been very good at playing the map, have been very coordinated. LNG, you know, in game 1 we were talking about how it gave us some a bit of a throwback to Spring and how good LNG were for the grand majority of Spring Split up until the very end where they kind of fell apart in playoffs. FPX, a team which didn't have that high expectations coming out of Spring. They really struggled in the first half of that split. Really took until the end of that for them to ramp up. Sadly couldn't make playoffs for themselves, but hanging with LNG in the second game, if they can get a good performance out of this, potentially bring it to a game 3, would really bolster the spirits of a team which would love to have a much better performance this summer than the disappointment they had in Spring.
And I think it's crucial that you get some of these early series as well, especially against a team like LNG. Like you say, it bolsters the spirits, but it's also about the mentality within the team in the long term. Like, when you're looking at a 1-3 score, it's a lot more difficult to feel like you are a contender than if you can manage to get this win, become 2-2, be in the middle of the table. It makes it a lot easier to believe that you are going to be a contender for the split, that you are going to be able to take on some teams. Especially a team like LNG, you can get a series win here. Like, you're feeling good moving into the rest of the split. It's a very different vibe.
But FPX, they beat EDG in Spring, folks. When EDG were really good, and they comprehensively beat them. This team has potential. Need to show a little bit more than that, though. Now it's Care going the aggressive versus Scout.
Just finds the charm, but the flash from Scout gets away from Hacker's ultimate. Won't keep himself safe. I feel like LNG, their entire game so far, unless you're in the bottom lane, has been play safe, defend towers. Like, just try and not die to the plays that FPX are making. And where Gala is, that's where we'll make proactive plays. But Scout and Zika doing a good job so far of just defending towers as long as physically possible, denying advantages from FPX as opposed to looking for their own.
And then also just finding a break in the waves to combo up across the map. I think Tarzan and Hung and Scout have all done a really good job of moving together to create proactive plays. Of course, that last multi-man play on bot side was very effective for them. However, you are getting to the point where you're going to have to deal with double teleports up for FPX, and if you buy into a multi-person teleport fight, I think FPX have the items now, particularly the second items coming in for the solo laners, to make a real mess of LNG if they don't hit a good initial engage.
Certainly can. Drake coming up in 10 seconds, though. What are our expectations here, Nymaera? Because gold is even.
Gold's even. There is some vision control for Xioalaohu to find himself on the angle. Need to really see what pockets Gala and Hung can find themselves.
Right, keeping our eyes on Gala. That's right, everyone at home. We're watching the Zeri. You couldn't see that coming, could you? Zika does get caught by a charm. Gravitum's there too, but walk away with his life for now. No Warmogs, so if he wants to regen, he's going to have to go back to base. Does have the teleport available.
Doesn't have himself the ability to complete that recall, though, to teleport back in. Xioalaohu, as we said, he had himself some vision, had himself an angle to be a threat on the flank. He has himself his second item, the Spear of Shojin, means that those empowers, those leap strikes come out all the more often. Counter-Strike obviously doesn't benefit as much from the Shojin passive, but it's enough to make things threatening. And with that, I think LNG, they've been so used to playing with vision control, especially after that first game. The Umbral Glaive, Kha'Zix helping them achieve that. That without that vision control now, against these strong carries coming online from FPX and not being ahead in gold themselves, they don't feel bold enough to take that objective and would rather cross map.
So, at least they'll get a bit of solo gold onto Gala as he takes that tower down in the top side. The answer should be here from FPX, so they can't look for anything more than just the tier 1, but great bit of play coming out from FPX. You know, like you say, the pressure from Xioalaohu going forward, pushing the wave underneath the tower, getting a couple of jungle camps as well while it all happens. And the rest of FPX muscle their way into the river. And you can see the 4 control wards, plus 3 other wards around the Dragon area. That was vision dominance out from FPX. As Hacker could be in trouble here. He is on the Sejuani, though, and perhaps it's Scout that's in trouble as they have to flee the river.
Also had a Yuumi on his back. The extra shielding, the extra movement speed, of course, you know how powerful that can be, despite the fact that Yuumi gets a lot more power when attached to their best friend. Doesn't mean that they don't add any value to a wandering jungler walking into the river like that. So FPX, they have themselves a lot of good burst potential as well now. Gale Force built up for LWX. We saw how powerful Gala could be on that pick just beforehand, and particularly with Hacker, with the damage amp from his mythic as well, and the full magic pen coming in from Care going towards that Shadow Flame second. This is all about killing the Zeri. The frontline targets from LNG, they're going to take less damage, I think. They don't have the most tank killing potential from FPX, but if they manage to catch Gala, and they manage to shut them down, maybe they can turn the team fight in their advantage.
Scout's looking for Care here. It's a bit of a combo, but not enough to actually find a kill. Tarzan can't follow up either as TP behind enemy lines as Hacker just getting shredded by Gala. He has to flash out. Can he escape though? Gala going to look over the wall and flashes for the kill. Jungler picked up by LNG. Is that an opportunity for Baron? How confident are they feeling?
Hacker looking mighty like grass right now because the lawnmower really finds no resistance in that Sejuani. Gala, not even at those 3 items, but has all the stats needed to take down the Sejuani. Very important, it's post 20 minutes, jungler's down, Baron's on the table, FPX, they need to be in crisis mode now.
They certainly do. Xioalaohu jumps away, will escape with his life, but Scout can just push this wave out top by priority. In the meantime, Gala gonna head back to base because remember, he was on 2 3/4 items, and he just got a kill onto Hacker. You know he's finishing it off, and there it is. Titanic Hydra, the lawnmower, fully revved up. The last few minutes, he's been pulling on that cord, and it just wouldn't start, but now, 3 items in, it's fully revving.
The Terraforminator's here, your grass is afraid to grow, and this is why, because even before that build comes out, if you don't manage to shut down the Zeri straight on, and the item builds from FPX are meant to do that, then they just get ran down. You don't have great continued DPS against this champion unless somehow LWX gets some great DPS combo. Gala is more than ready to pop FPX.
Certainly is. Let's see if he can. LNG. Again, gold really not that far ahead from them. It's like 500 gold. It's really not significant at this point in the game. There's 2.5 items for LWX. It's not quite the same level of spike as what Gala's on, but don't underestimate what the Aphelios can do. We saw him absolutely get one shot by the Aphelios at the end of the previous game. That was on a similar amount of items. So the right situation, LWX can still very much be that carry. Not to mention, you got that top lane threat in the Jax as well.
I think Xioalaohu has been playing fairly admirably about trying to push in a side lane, find an angle, and at least be the threat on the side of a fight, which means LNG don't feel bold enough to engage. And it has meant that the gold has stayed fairly similar, the kills have stayed fairly similar, and despite the fact that Hacker was just picked off in that top river, because Xioalaohu had pushed in some of those waves, had been a threat on that side, LNG couldn't take that Baron. Really need to see a continuation of this. FPX, if they keep that side lane threat, maybe LNG don't get to kind of crush the map the way they did in game 1.
See what comes out from FPX to answer that map play, like you say. It does need to be answered. Drake up in 35 seconds here. We'll see what FPX can do to try and set up for that. Scuttle Crab currently in favor of LNG. Xioalaohu, who's been on this bottom side, he's been playing weak side essentially. But now with Hacker moving over, should be able to push out a little bit bottom side and try and set up some vision for this Drake as Hacker moves in to get some vision, not too deep vision, but at least something beyond the river.
Gala, no cleanse, but does have a QSS. Pay attention to that. FPX getting engaged on now, potentially.
LWX in trouble, the knock up. Oh, knock back as well, but not back enough. Managed to Gale Force his way out to safety there. That could have been real dicey for them. Gale Force on cooldown, Moonlight Vigil on cooldown, but honestly, fairly even trade in terms of abilities. Care flashing onto Tarzan here. Tries to find his dog, and Xioalaohu finds the flank. Tarzan down. Now 4v5. Can they make it happen? Because Gala's still going. And Xioalaohu can't escape the play. Jumps over to Hacker though, and he will actually somehow get out. Gala looking for more, but won't find it.
Oh, so it's actually just the one for none. FPX picking off Tarzan, but they have to commit a lot of flashes for it. They're not going to get themselves a game-breaking advantage. They're heading towards the top side of the map. They're going to lose Dragon, but how quickly can they start bursting down a potential Baron?
This is going to be interesting. TP comes on through there. Oh, they've got red and white Aphelios. This is going to be fast. Plus a Jackson here as well. LNG, do they even know this is going on? They don't even seem to be in a rush to contest. Baron goes down to scout, tanks the mid tower, desperate to trade some kind of objective beyond just a Cloud Drake.
FPX, really good calculation on how fast they can take these objectives. Now you have a Baron up, Jackson the side lane. Xioalaohu was already a threat against Zika, already made an impact in that last fight against Tarzan. Now with the extra ability to break open the map, finally take down one of those final outer turrets in the game, has an unprecedented opportunity now to make FPX a source of pressure on the map. Care finds himself the first bit of damage onto Tarzan. After this point, of course, that damage is no longer available for Gala, so the retreat is sounded, but they do get out alive. And that's the important thing. Gala, despite him being so tanky, so hard to take down, not quite able to stick to the targets and deal the damage.
Great stuff from the solo laners from FPX. Care is having a fantastic game on the Ahri. Able to dodge everything that's been thrown his way. That's the 2 kills under his belt. And he's got that Shadow Flame online. He is getting scary in terms of the damage. And the flash charm onto Tarzan. I don't think Tarzan was quite ready for the damage and the double flank that came through from FPX. And now it feels like FPX firmly in control. 1,000 gold lead and fighting for that vision control. And I feel like vision control has been the secret sauce for FPX this game. It feels like every single moment they've had dominance over the river when it comes to those wards.
Again, I think a lot of that comes back to Xioalaohu on the Jax, pushing in, being a point of pressure, making sure the waves are there so they can put the wards down afterwards. FPX, they're in control, they've got push, they got Baron, but they need to be able to deal with this Zeri. They've still not been able to do that comprehensively. The last fight and the last winner, it felt like it was against the grain of the game because Gala was so strong. That question is still very much above their heads.
Certainly is. Scout desperately trying to defend in the mid lane. It's going to be tough though against these Baroned up waves. Gala threatening the all-in. Threatening going forwards. It's not a threat, it's real.
There he goes!
He's just been one-shot instead. Tarzan trying to finish LWX, but he can't take him down. Turns gold, take it down. Gala with a double kill. And that kitty on his shoulder is purring right now because FPX are firmly in control.
Well, there's your answer to that question. They can deal with the Zeri. Gala goes aggressive, but just disrespects the damage which FPX can turn out in return. And with the last of this Baron, FPX can break through some extra turrets. Not quite break through this mid lane inhibitor, but they're going to get even more gold for this Baron buff.
They just don't have the wave clear here. It's only Scout alive, really, that has any. And he's on the Gragas. It's not exactly inspiring wave clear against the Baron wave. As FPX wants into the bottom side, take an inhib. They're looking for 2 inhibs off of this push. Beautiful play to get the Baron, and beautiful follow-up to find more.
Taking the advantages when they could see them, despite the AD carry being so strong from LNG. See him feeling it, really knowing that he has damage. He's not able to burst out LWX and doesn't even manage to take down Gala. LWX on the Aphelios. We saw it last game, the one shot in the base. It happens in a much more crucial moment this time. LWX returning the favor to what Gala did to him at the end of game 1 and putting a really important moment into the books of game 2.
Yep. 3 and a bit items now for LWX. He is feeling extremely strong. As we all know this Aphelios. In fact, those are the items he had before the play, apparently, is he's going to recall. Finishing a couple of jungle camps, you have to wonder if he's got a full tier 3 item on the way here. That was a 5.2 thousand gold Baron power play. That is nuts. They were even before that. And yet, he picks up an entire GA off the back of that fight, does LWX.
We call that one a one-shot. Goes back to base just that one time. He buys himself an entire amount of Divine Providence. You also see third items coming in for Hacker. The Sejuani is actually really tanky at this point. And a Death Cap coming in for Care. So you have Shadow Flame, you have the Death Cap. Care is going to be very, very strong if you can get on top of Gala. Going into the magic resist of the solo laners, you get a little bit from, of course, some the items you get on that side. Of course, you have the Banshee's Veil. They're just going for the engage. Let's see what they can do.
Big engage here. Gala's alive this time around, but Scout is not, and here comes Xioalaohu to turn it into more. Gala's still firing away, but LWX also totally fine, totally alive at the backside of the play. Tarzan trying to peel him. Gala has just been ignored. They've been walking into the lawnmower like blades of grass. Tarzan charges forward for LWX, gets the stun down, and Gala can finish the job. LWX coming out of the GA. What can he do with his one auto attack? Nothing. He doesn't even get the freebie. Knocked up and taken down. And LNG, it felt like it might have been over, but they find their fight.
The ripcord revs to life once more. The lawnmower's back online. Gala with the QSS, with the cleanse, has more than enough this time to finally buy some space. He's on the back foot. He's going backwards, able to outrange LWX, not burst out by the Aphelios. Just gets to sit in front of the front line. And FPX, it felt like they had the game in hand. Huge Baron play, but they can't see it through in this fight. They don't close down the Zeri. The Zeri does all the damage that they need. How this starts off, though, was a fight chosen by LNG. It's not Gala walking forward this time. It's Scout. Scout goes down for the attempts. But after this point, it feels like FPX, they just get a little bit ahead of themselves. They've used a lot of the HP bar of Care. He can't just commit to this fight. Care can't hit Gala. LWX can't hit Gala. You're left with just your front line trying to do the job, and that is just not enough versus this Zeri.
No. Care, it felt like being forced to ult right at the very start meant he couldn't really offer much for this entire fight, sort of on the sidelines. Knock for the end there, perfectly timed from Zika to make sure that LWX can't turn it around, because one crit there from LWX onto Gala probably turns the play.
And also another thing which I learned there, if you cast Counter-Strike as Viego when you steal his body, and then you ult afterwards and you go back to Viego, you still got the spinning staff of the ghostly jacks above your head, so you can ignore auto attacks, get the stun afterwards. Today I learned, and LWX learned that one the hard way. And you can use the jump from your ult to get the stun off of the Counter-Strike. Yeah, it's disgusting. It's really disgusting. I'd say Jax is maybe the best champion to steal when you are the Viego. It's a charge in from Zika, knocked back though as Gala feeling confident. We've seen this before though, and it didn't end well. Last time he was on 3 items though. This time he's full build. That's terrifying. QuiQiu sim at the top. Bloodthirster as well, so when you're above 50% HP, you get yourself the extra AD. I think it'll probably be up to the likes of, what, almost an extra 30 base AD now. On top of that, it's a huge amount of stats for the item when you are healthy. It's less defensive, but it gives you more payoff. And with Gala being able to really shred out damage at the start of these fights, it is going to pay dividends. Scout on the flank, has himself a battle ward position, spots FPX going over towards the Baron. They have themselves pretty good combo for AoE. That Severum Infernum really good at ripping through AoE damage this time into LNG's comp.
Scout looking for an Everfrost that could have led to a cast, but find his target for now. Care doing a bit of damage onto Tarzan. Hacker on the front line, but he's just not tanky enough. Gala is shredding them. FPX desperately trying to fight. It's a good ultimate. It's the Moonlight Vigil. Chunks out LNG, but chunking him out
Gala
just ain't enough, and Gala wants a 1v2. There's a count on his shoulder, though, an LWX survivor for now. Lifesteal on off of the Crooks as Hacker plays bodyguard, but LWX jumped on, but Gala's gone too deep again. Not respecting the Aphelios. It's a cardinal sin. Tarzan finally shuts him down and takes those items for himself. A triple for LWX. Wait, no, triple for Tarzan? I'm so confused. I'm pretty sure that's Tarzan's.
It's hard to tell when the weapon of the faithful becomes a heretic stolen by Viego. Gets so much damage down. Tarzan showing once again how much damage he can do in these fights. But while all this is happening, minions have been smashing into LNG's base. So they lose the Nexus turret. We're
like
actually,
the city's on fire.
We're
It's
actually
like
getting to the point where, like,
movies.
we're getting to the point where, like, LNG could genuinely get backdoored. There's an inhib down, there's a Nexus turret down, the mid inhib is also open. Despite the fact that they're winning these fights just about, particularly when these fights get close towards the end, there are still options for FPX towards the death of that. LWX still huge amounts of damage. Good Moonlight Vigil with the Mega Infernum Bomb, as I like to call that one, very nearly takes out a number of members. And he keeps himself alive with the Yuumi on his back. Gala goes on his own with just the Lulu buffs coming in from the extra screen away. Very nearly gets to close down that Aphelios, but Gala once again just goes a little bit too aggressive. I think it's get very, very close towards the edge of this.
Gala just massively underestimating what LWX can do there. The Q with Severum, when you've got the Bloodthirster online as well, plus a Yuumi on your shoulders, like they're healing.
Conquer at the end of the fight, you forget about that one. A lot of the time you think about it at level 2 when he spins around on you. Like when you take Conquer on Aphelios, very good when you have the onslaught from that Severum. It stacks it up very, very quickly. You think about it at laning phase, and then in late game team fights like that. You forget about it, and then that happens.
Let's just quickly point out as well on the scoreboard, this is not really that important because Gala's been on 6 items for a while, but he's at 450 CS in 38 minutes. He is just annihilating waves. Like when we say lawnmower, he's the minion mower at this point as LWX. Oh, this is beautiful with the green gun. He can do it over the wall. Hacker burning through it. And Baron just stolen away by FPX. No answer whatsoever from LNG. And honestly, the map play from FPX this game has been fantastic.
When you have those rifle turrets, the Caliber and Crescendum, you can basically play like a Caitlyn. Those turrets do so much work. Allows you to fire over the wall. The right weapons for the job. FPX take away another Baron this time. They've been very cognizant, very aware of how they can take down that Baron and how quickly that will happen. LNG do have themselves that Cloud Soul. They have themselves a lot of objectives in pocket, which does mean that the Elder is up in 50 seconds. But because of that very quick, efficient Baron, FPX can push, they can reset, and they can be in position for what could be the ultimate fight of the game.
Certainly could. And this is an exciting game now. We've got to almost the 40-minute mark. It's been tense the entire time. Cloud Soul for LNG doesn't really feel like it'll do much with Elder coming up in 20 seconds time. Look at Zika's health bar. He has got to God mode at this point as Gala's got out Moonlight Vigilance there! LWX telling us why they favor the Aphelios over the Zeri. Beautiful combo. Returns the favor to Gala. So what Gala did to him in the previous game. And that could be game. 45 seconds. Surely they could just end.
I think they can, but you don't have your primary damage source. LWX might have made the game-winning play.
Scout turns golden, but he's not going to survive this one. Taken out by Xioalaohu. LWX still just free firing as he's got the Yuumi on his shoulders. Tarzan trying to defend, but there's nothing left in this one. FPX have done it. We said they need to prove themselves today. And if this game doesn't prove anything, I don't know what will. We're going to 3. And we'll see if FPX can keep this ball rolling, because it's looking beautiful.
I think there's a phrase which every League of Legends player knows somewhere down the line. The faithful shall be rewarded. You know what Aphelios is called? He is the weapon of the faithful. LWX brandishing that one like a dagger, stabbing it into the hearts of LNG. It felt like they were in control for so much of that game, particularly with Zeri coming back online and getting to those huge item breakpoints. Normally you are ready to call that game over, but LWX had so much more to say about that game.
Oh, he certainly did. And like the consistently finding those combos, right? Gala goes too deep, he combos in with the red and white weapons. Then the combo over the wall to get the Baron. And then Gala steps out of position and he combos in with Infernum. It feels like no matter the situation, LWX knew exactly what to do.
It's like a Swiss Army knife, you know, like the jack of all trades, except each one is a different way that Zeri can die.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Aphelios really is the Swiss Army knife of AD carries. It's like you were saying when they're taking the Baron. He could do what Caitlyn can do when he's got the green gun. He could do what Samira could do when he's got the red gun. Like, I feel like he ticks the boxes of so many different AD carries all in one neat package. Fantastic stuff, though, from LWX. Played exceptionally well, because I feel like in a lot of cases, people favor the Jinx or the Zeri in the long, drawn-out games like this. But with the Yuumi on his shoulder, and when your pilot is as talented as LWX, like, you can definitely put faith in that, Aphelios.
And we've seen in the LPL as well, you are rewarded for having very strong Aphelios players. The player that comes to mind for that as well is 1xN. New player coming into TT as well, came in from LDL. Incredible Aphelios player. You can see what you can do on that. If you put the time in to specialize that, we have some incredible AD carries here. We've seen 2 on the Rift here. We have Ruler. We have Xioalaohu on his great days as well. The level of AD carry play means that the AD carry meta starts to shift with it. Despite the fact that Zeri is very consistent and incredible at finding those pockets to find those team fights in, Aphelios' unrivaled playmaking for both teams now in this series adds some very important questions into Game 3. What are you prioritizing? That is that's over 1,000 DPM! Get rid of this champion!
Not bad, is it? That's not bad, is it? That's well over 1,000 DPM as well. 15k over. Phenomenal stuff out from LWX. I feel like
that's LWX and cheerleaders.
Is there not just a point in the conversation where Aphelios is just B1? Like,
we seem to be banned.
That you're banning certain things. Like, if you're blue side now, I feel like if you're drafting for it, why not just B1 Aphelios?
I think the difficulty is if you go for Aphelios on B1 and you haven't banned the Yuumi, there's a chance that you get the Zeri Yuumi into you, and that's a very different combo. A lot of the reason why LWX can play like this is because of that Enchanter sat on his back the entire game, particularly the way that Yuumi works right now. When you get to sit on your AD carry, you get empowered abilities effectively, and LWX was walking a very fine line. It's just that, particularly with LNG, when Zeri wasn't in the best position to carry the entire fight, the rest of their members didn't have enough damage to threaten LWX to 100-0, which means that Gala, if he wasn't making those aggressive plays, you can see what he could go towards.
Yeah, I feel like Gala really overstepping a lot in that one. It felt a little bit like Xioalaohu as opposed to Gala, like multiple times stepping too far forward, being too aggressive. And I feel like Zeri is one of these champions where it does lean towards that. Like, to be a really good Zeri, you do have to play on that knife's edge. You do have to be really aggressive. But Gala just being a little too aggressive. I think just consistently underestimating that Yuumi was the long and short of it. He sees Aphelios alone, but he's not actually alone. He's got that little pet on his shoulder. And it's not a parrot, it's a cat. That means we're going to 3 games, though. FPX managing to pull themselves back